Jonathan had heard the stories ever since he was a boy. The old railway line, cutting through the fog-swathed hills on the outskirts of town, held a secret, a mystery that tickled the imagination and whispered curious tales into the ears of the daring. They spoke of the midnight train that never stopped, a spectral train that barreled across the untouched tracks when the clock struck 12. But unlike any ordinary train, it was whispered to be a passageway between worlds, or lost souls looking for a place to rest. Driven by a potent mixture of skepticism and youthful bravery, Jonathan decided to uncover the truth behind the legend. That autumn night was cold and crisp, the air tinged with the scent of damp earth and the rustle of the dying leaves beneath his boots. The full moon, a pale specter, hung heavily against the ink-black sky, casting shadows that danced eerily in every corner of the abandoned railway station. Jonathan had prepared himself for any eventuality. His backpack was slung over one shoulder, containing nothing more than a flashlight, a notebook, and a camera, his tools for unveiling the truth. He settled onto one of the rotting benches, its wood warped with time and neglect, and listened. For minutes, the world seemed to hold its breath, embracing a silence so profound that even his own breathing seemed intrusive. Then, as if summoned by cosmic forces, the distant whistle of a train pierced the stillness, faint at first, but growing ever louder. The low rumble of the tracks beneath was like the heart of the earth awakening. Jonathan gripped his flashlight tightly, his pulse quickening not just with fear, but with an eagerness to witness the impossible. Out of the shrouded fog, the train emerged, its faded cars illuminated only by their own dim, spectral glow. Windows lined with utter darkness, cars joining one another in a chain that seemed endless. Ink-black silhouettes peered from within, passengers, if one could call them that, with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of forgotten lives. As the train slowed, but never stopped, a door inexplicably swung open. A hushed wind seemed to escape, beckoning Jonathan toward it. Ignoring the chills creeping down his spine, he approached, drawn by a force outside his own logic. With a deep breath, he stepped inside. The interior was a world of shadows and whispers, corridors stretching in directions that didn't make sense, as if playing tricks on his perception. Each carriage was a room with its own story, some containing elaborately dressed figures frozen in moments of their past lives. Others were empty yet filled with fleeting echoes. It was a museum of time, a place where realities intertwined. A voice, a woman's, soft and melancholic, called to Jonathan as he moved further through the compartments. "You are seeking answers," it said, "but sometimes it is the questions that define the journey." Jonathan found her seated in a luxury dining car long past its prime. The woman, beautifully ethereal, sat by the window staring into the void outside. Her long, silvery gown shimmered faintly, reflecting the glimmer of the passing stars. "Who are you?" Jonathan stammered, his voice barely audible. "Just another passenger," she replied with a sad, yet knowing smile. "Like you, caught in the journey between beginnings and endings." Her eyes met his, as if reaching into the very essence of his being. Jonathan felt an overwhelming cycle of confusion and clarity, as if the answers were there but just out of reach. He looked around, realizing this train was a vessel for those mistaken, lost, or searching. He saw flashes, moments of recognition of lives interconnecting through time. "Why the train?" he finally asked. The woman looked outside, her gaze steady. "Because it never stops, never forgets, and neither do we. Our tracks are laid in the hearts that remember." Without further explanation, the woman vanished like a whisper in the wind, leaving Jonathan to ponder alone. The train, with its mysterious tones, began to accelerate, merging into the folds between night and dawn. Rushing past countless landscapes he could barely comprehend, Jonathan felt himself being pulled back to the world he came from. He found himself back at the station, the train a mere legend, vanishing amidst the tendrils of mist and the glow of pre-dawn. With the first light of morning, Jonathan stood alone, clutching his notebook, pages now scribbled with truths and secrets even he didn't understand. The midnight train had proven its legend, yet opened more questions than it resolved. Determined, he whispered to the ghostly rails that now lay silent, "I will be back." The stories would continue to float in whispers throughout the town, tales spun as new as the dawn and as old as time.